Hey, boys and girls, let's talk about inferencing. So, yesterday you should have written down the definition of inferencing that was on the active board. Okay, inferencing is kind of like you read between the lines to pick up on information that is not explicitly stated. So, like if I come in and I have a red face and I'm huffing and puffing and I'm just making all these noises, and what kind of emotion do you think I might feel? Anger, right? Or I'm upset about something. That's inferencing because I never came in and explicitly said I'm angry today or I'm mad. So, inferencing, you have to use the information that you have plus the information which you know, and then you can make an educated guess. That's inferencing. It's very similar to a hypothesis in science. So, what we're going to do is listen to a story of the big hungry bear together, and then we're going to talk. So, sorry for the interruption. Okay, so what we're going to do is listen to a video of the big hungry bear. Again, if you don't have out your inferencing notes from yesterday, you need to take them out while we're listening to this story. So there is a link in Google Classroom. I want you to open this if you need to go back to it, but right now you can listen to it with me.
The Little Mouse, the Red Ripe Strawberry, and the Big Hungry Bear by Dawn and Audrey Wood. Hello, Little Mouse. What are you doing? Oh, I see. Are you going to pick that red, ripe strawberry? But, Little Mouse, haven't you heard about the big, hungry bear? Oh, how that bear loves red, ripe strawberries. The big, hungry bear can smell a red, ripe strawberry a mile away. Especially one that has just been picked. Boom, boom, boom. The bear will tromp through the forest on his big hungry feet and sniff, sniff, sniff. Find the strawberry. No matter where it is hidden, or who is guarding it, or how it is disguised. Quick! There's only one way in the whole wide world to save a red, ripe strawberry from the big, hungry bear. Cut it in two. Share half with me. And we will both eat it all up. Yum! that's one red, ripe strawberry the big hungry bear will never get. The end.
Okay, so this is a very childish story, but we can still get our point across. So, inferencing, again, is reading between the lines. So, how do you think the mouse feels now that he might have shared the strawberry? Do you think the bear feels any different? Is the bear still hungry? These are all questions that you could probably answer just by watching the story. So when you're inferencing, you're using the text and your background knowledge together. So you infer by thinking about your own experiences, thinking about how a character handles conflict, thinking about a character's actions, using clues from the text, thinking about what a character says or feels, and again, what you already know. So what I want you to do is think, what can you infer from this short story? What can you do to read between the lines? Again, answer questions like, how do you think the mouse feels? How do you think the bear feels? Do you think they will become friends? You're making predictions and educated guesses based on what you know or what you've read. So I want you to draw a bubble map on your piece of paper, which should be your notes from yesterday. And I want you to fill out this bubble map, put the title, The Big Hungry Bear, in the middle, and then fill it in with inferences that you can infer from the story, The Big Hungry Bear. Okay? And this is something that I need you to keep in your binder. Do not turn it in. You need to keep it in your binder. These are your notes, and this is practice. Once you've done this, let's talk about Chapter 20 of The Giver. So Chapter 19, yesterday, we learned what release meant. Okay? So in Chapter 20, we're going to see some different things happen. Well, after Jonas ends his session with the giver and they talk about release, he refuses to go home. And so the giver says that Jonas can stay at his house for the night if he wants to. Okay? Well, then Jonas and the giver get to talking again about release. And Jonas says, is it death for everyone, even the elderly? And the giver answers yes. And even Fiona, who works with the elderly, remember Fiona is his friend, she is being trained to do lethal injections. So that means she's being trained to release people, even though she doesn't know what release technically means. Remember, nobody in this community really understands what release means except Jonas, because he has knowledge of the memories of what release is. So the giver explains that the two of them are the only ones with real feelings in the entire community. So nobody else experiences loss or pain the way that they do, because they hold all of the memories for the whole community. Well, Jonas is sitting wrapped up in the giver's robe in his house, making himself all comfy, ready for the night. Okay? And then he starts to think of a plan. He says, well, I need to escape to elsewhere. That means he wants to escape outside of this community. And he says, if I escape to elsewhere, then the memories will be released back to the community. And that way everybody in the community will have the same understanding and knowledge that he does. And the giver hopes that through these memories, the citizens will acquire some wisdom. And so the giver says, okay, Jonas, if you go to elsewhere, I can't go with you, because somebody has got to stay behind and help the community cope with their memories. So he says, if you go, I'll stay here. So Jonas hatches a plan, okay? And they said, well, who's going to take Jonas's place if he leaves? And Jonas says, oh yeah, there's another girl who's only a 6, but in a few years she should be ready to take my place as the new receiver of memory. And she has that same characteristic of the pale eyes. Because the giver explains he's too old and he couldn't make the journey with Jonas to elsewhere anyway. And he doesn't even see colors anymore. So he's already starting to go back to seeing everything in black and white, because once the memories leave him and go to Jonas, he doesn't even have them anymore. And the giver explains how he used to hear music and he doesn't even hear music anymore. So for the next 2 weeks, the ceremony is approaching, and Jonas and the giver work on their plan so Jonas can escape to elsewhere. The giver is going to give him memories to help him of courage so that he can have courage. The night before the ceremony, Jonas is going to sneak out of the house and hide his bike and clothes by the river. Then he's going to come back to the giver's house, and then the giver is going to be waiting on him. As the plan goes, his parents are going to wake up and find a note and explaining that Jonas has gone out for an early bike ride. They're going to wait on him, but he's never going to show up, and they'll just finally decide to leave for the ceremony without him, assuming that he'll meet them there after he's finished with his bike ride. No one's really going to notice his absence because there's so much going on at the ceremony that nobody will really miss him. By the time everyone has found Jonas's bike and clothes by the river, the boy is going to be long gone. So Jonas will already be on his way to elsewhere, and the community will turn to the giver to help them through the crisis. So we can infer here that just by Jonas leaving his clothes and bike by the river, that everybody in the community is going to think that something terrible happened to him and that he drowned. Okay? And then the giver is going to have to help the community cope with everything that's going on. So the giver is going to help the citizens in the community. And then after that, the giver says he wants to be with his daughter, Rosemary. So what can you infer that the giver is going to do after their plan is unfolded? Okay? So what I need you to do now is complete the effort grade in Google Classroom on inferencing. It's in Google Classroom, the code's in Google Classroom, and the actual assignment is in Mastery Connect. You must do this. You don't have a choice. You have to complete your assignments. And then once you finish that, I want you to read chapter 20 of The Giver. Okay? So let's catch up on our work today. Let's keep up with our notes. Remember to put these in your binder. I don't mind if you use your notes on this effort grade today, since it's just an effort grade, but I do need you to take your time and read the passage and do your best. If you have any questions, come and ask me or Ms. Gaskins.